Um, John Zentz's term is laser precision on the, because we shoot the laser out, laser precision in either target or mat placement, right? So that's where we learn that. But if you're doing a lot of dynamic resets, a dynamic reset, all you need to do is have a scan tool, plug it into the machine, and then the car does the recalibration itself, because it's looking for, the mustard and the mayonnaise and the mustard, right? So it's looking for the lines. Just keep it between the mayonnaise and the mustard and everything. It's looking for mailboxes, or it's looking for stop signs, or it's looking for, depending on what you're doing. A lot of dynamic resets, you just have to have a tool to tell it, hey, I need you to start to reset. So the Bosch tool is really good for that. The other thing, if you're not an OEM, maybe you're a body shop and you don't have an OEM tool, you still need some type of scan tool to tell the unit to either shoot the radar or take the picture or look at, stitch the images together to actually do the recalibration. So that's why we're dealing with Bosch, because they've had a lot more years in the scan tool business than, try to do an upstart, right? It was great for Bosch because they just got sold tons of units. It's great for us because we didn't have to come up with all the R&D. We just, they're German, so they move cautiously and measured. And some days they moved, but we need them to move, right? So we're working on that. It's some days it can be just like anything else. Some days it can be a little tenuous, but it's the best option we have because we can at least say it's in the United States and stuff like that. So maybe later in the week, I don't know, maybe Wednesday, because Thursday and Friday are gonna be full days. Friday, you guys are gonna, like, your brains are gonna melt into your feet. I love Friday because what Ryan has, Ryan has a good time. You guys need the weekend off to recuperate after Ryan's done with you. So, all right. Back to actual cameras, because we need cameras. So what we realized is our cameras do a very good job of measuring distances, right? So, to get to live planes, we installed an inclinometer in the camera boom, and the inclinometer has an X and a Y axis, because we need to know, are we leaning a little this way or are we leaning a little this way? And if we know where our cameras are to horizontal and to vertical, we have another angle that we can use. So that way we don't have to, because before, when you bolted that column to the ground, you used to have to level that column up, just almost like on the rear of a four-post. You had to make sure it was square and it was plumb and it was level, because the cameras had to be, perfect, or as perfect as humans can make it. So now with the advent of the inclinometer, now the cameras don't have to be exact, because we can figure out what that angle is, and then we do a ginormous amount of math to figure out where we are in space as the relationship to vertical and horizontal. So what we notice, we take really accurate measurements, basically, of the distance between the cameras and the targets, right? So that's what we're doing. When we're moving the Ultimate ADAS back and forth, the cameras are giving us that distance. We shine the lasers on the ground, and then you move the base of the unit into where the lasers are, and we're double checking that where the lasers tell us to put it is the right distance from the car, so that we're in the right position to, let's just say, either do a front-facing radar or front camera or something like that. And then we hang the target, and then we can figure out left to right, because we know where our cameras are in space. We know where the end of our rail is in space. So we know left to right, because we know where, if it's a forward-facing camera, we know where the camera is in relationship to the center line of the car. We take the target and we move it left to right. And then the other thing with the Ultimate ADAS is it can roll, pitch, and yaw 4 degrees. That's why I don't have to get it exactly perfect, because one, if I'm a little off center, it's just going to take my target, move it a little over that way to get back into the center of the car. If I have a natural slope it can figure out and it can match the slope of the car, right? Because if I have two axles, I have a live plane, I know what my floor is doing because I know what my car is doing, right? Because if I'm on live planes and my live planes are tilted a little bit, that's unique. If my live planes are tilted a little bit, I can extrapolate that my floor is doing the same thing because my car is just sitting on the floor. So then the whole Ultimate 8S can pitch a little bit, right? Or whatever, roll pitch, whatever, roll, I don't know, roll pitch, y'all, whatever you want to do. It can do this, or it can do this, or I can do this, right? But that way I can be parallel to the floor, but perpendicular to the car. 3, that's pretty good. At least now you won't be looking up my nose. I said across her nose, not up it. Right? There's a good line for you right there. Holy cow. They don't make movies like that anymore. So, but that's what we do with the Ultimate 8S, and that's how we get it to be able to place targets and match so quickly, because we're always, so cameras are the bedrock of what we're doing. Okay. So a camera used to be this. A camera used to be a top camera and a bottom camera. It used to be a camera control board. It used to be an emitter board, and it used to be the frame. Okay? This is what you used to order Winaline 12 all the way back to Winaline 7. You would order in a whole camera. Okay? We are really good at, if you see a Torx bit, you're supposed to stop and question your life's choices before you loosen it or tighten it or move it. Okay? This was our, hey, you should really think about doing it before you do something. A long time ago, if you loosened up one of these Torx bits, you messed with the factory calibration and it was no longer any good. And then you either had to somehow sell the customer a needed camera that they needed because this one was bad. You guys wouldn't do that. Your predecessors did that. That's why they're not here anymore and you're taking their place. He'll do it. Anyway.
All part of the 45-day plan.
So, anytime there's a Torx bit, again, it's supposed to be like, hey, okay? All right. Nowadays, perfect. Yeah, more perfect. Nowadays, are we good?
Getting the temp edges fixed. You could mess. He was happy to help with my personal ID.
Okay.
A little more on the temp edges, but I'm getting it worked out.
Okay. Just make sure Neil gets one before he leaves today. Thank you. All right. Now what you get is we're going to call this a pod, camera pod. Okay. There's an upper camera pod and a lower camera pod. Now, if it's on the driver's side, it might look like this. And obviously, if it's on the passenger side, it's just upside down, right? So you only need 2 different part numbers, okay? Because the top is still a top and the bottom is still a bottom. But this is what you're going to order now rather than a whole camera. And now you don't even have to order both of these. You can just order whichever camera is doing stupid things and winning stupid prizes. Okay. This started with Winaline 14. Okay. The difference here is old style Winaline. We just had a calibration. You'd put the bar in the back, you'd turn it 4 times, you'd move the bar up to the front, you'd turn it 4 times, and you were done. Because we were calibrating the rears, we were calibrating the fronts. But since they were all single plane, they were the big elephant ears or the HD targets, we didn't have the ability to do much more than that. And then Winaline 14 came along with TD targets, 3-dimensional targets, TD targets. And now if you guys know, you start off in the rear and you characterize the rear, and then you start in the rear and then you walk. You take about 7 different steps and you're walking and you're walking and you're walking, okay? When you're walking, you're actually giving each one of these an individual calibration rather than just a generic calibration. This is the rear, this is the front. We're doing the same walking calibration as they did over there on day 1 when we did the tour and we saw the white robot arm. So you're basically redoing a factory calibration in the field by doing that walking calibration. Because we're doing that walking calibration, you don't have to order in the whole thing that's already been, bolted down and tied down and all that, because now you can just replace one piece, okay? So that's the difference. So it's easier for you. The reason we did that is because this got to be, this got to be like $3-4 grand, and the regular customers, but when central service customers start to complain, it's like EF Hutton. We listen, right? Because we don't want to lose their business because, they're Sears or Goodyear or Firestone, they buy a lot of alignment units during the year. So if we need to figure out how to make some of the upkeep cheaper, we'll do that. So now you can just order a camera pod. Okay, a camera pod comes with, so there's a lens, and the lens is adjustable. And now this one doesn't have it, but nowadays they put that pink Jiffy Lube crayon on here to make sure that you don't mess with the focal range, anti-tamper wax that they put on. Because when we set the focal range, it needs to stay where the focal range is. Okay. The other thing it has, and I'll show you one of these. On the back side here is a CCD board, which is basically the same thing. Everyone has a digital camera, a Nikon, a Sony. I'm not even sure who else makes them, but Nikon and Sony. But if you have, where you can adjust out the lenses.
Different cameras. He's camera guy. Zeiss. Yeah.
Zeiss, okay.
Like a Canon.
Okay, but you can they have interchangeable lenses, and it's still just a CCD board. On the CCD board, there is an EEPROM. The calibration is stored on this board. That's why when you replace a hard drive, all you have to do is pull over the characterization files, because characterization is stored on the hard drive. Calibration is stored in the camera. Okay? That's very important. That's on page 70. So when we get to page 70 on Thursday, I'm going to tell you to dog ear it before you forget it. All right? So, because you're going to forget it, because it's been a week. Then on top of that, again, I'll show you this in a minute, but there's the emitter board that fires the emitters, and then there's the camera control board. The camera control board is sort of like Listerine. It does what it says, and it says what it does. The camera control board is it's there to control when the camera takes a picture. So if you notice when an aligner is blinking, they blink opposite of each other, right? The top and the bottom don't blink at the same time. The top blinks and then the bottom blinks, but it's always 180 degrees out of phase. Okay, these guys get together because everything's connected through USB, and then the camera knows, or the PC knows which can to fire which camera. The camera control board says, okay, we're going to take a picture. Let's fire the emitter. And then as we fire the emitter, once again, it makes the tunnel. Then we're going to take a picture while the red light, all the red lights are for two things. One, to create a tunnel. Two, the red lights make the silver reflective pop, right? So if the silver reflectiveness pops, it's easier to measure the circumference of the circle, whether it be white or black. But since the silver is popping, it gives us more definition and more detail, so we can make a better determination of how big the circle is, okay? Between the two of you, I don't know who to look at. All right. So these are cameras, just all sorts of vintage cameras. Now we have 8 wires instead of 2 wires. I don't know why we need 8 wires. We used to do 2 wires for a really long time. Just all sorts of cameras, okay? All right, let's see what we can do here. Camera board. Ooh, I need this one. This one is old. This one's newer. This one's in between. This one is old. Do I have another one? This is all I got? I got 3 of them? Okay. So we had, here's this one. Okay. So we had 4 different styles of camera control boards. Okay. So the original control board just had 2 wires. So the 2 wires on here is the signal wire from the camera control board when to flash the emitter. The emitter just needed a positive and a negative to flash the emitter, okay? And then the camera control board would tell the camera, hey, take the picture, okay? USB coming in, okay, because I need USB because every time I take a picture, it turns it into digital. I have to get it back, right? It used to be that this connector right here plugged directly into probably won't be able to find it since I'm looking for one. Used to be that this plugged directly into the CCD board because engineering never heard of thermal heat expansion. So what could possibly go wrong if these two pieces were put together and there was absolutely no gap between the two of them? And yes, you understand that. It took them like years to figure that out. Maybe you should be an engineer. Anyway. So what would happen is this would push with enough pressure on the CC. Oh, this is the one I'm looking for. It would push with enough pressure on the CCD board that it would crack the CCD board. And then when you go on vacation and it's a completely black picture and it says, whatever city you're in at night, or Amish Christmas lights or something like that. And it's just, right? I love that one. So, if it's a candlelight dinner, how does she know if it's a special dinner or just a normal dinner?
Special dinner.
Okay. Candles taller. I like that. Maybe different colored wax. Yeah, okay. So it would crack the imager board. And if the imager board was cracked, obviously we couldn't take a picture of it anymore. So rather than engineer, I love engineers. They're crafty. They came up with this little plastic insert that was about 1 millimeter thick. So if you ever come across and you're replacing a camera control board and there's that yellow, we'll call it a shim, that yellow shim is there to give it thermal expansion, right? Because now this isn't touching that anymore. It's just, evidently we hadn't cracked any since this came out. So but it works. And it's probably 3D printed and it's cheap, right? It doesn't actually. The other problem is it's not even red, it's yellow, right? Someone committed a faux pas by making it yellow. He probably doesn't work here anymore because it wasn't red and it doesn't say Hunter on it. Anyway.
The final straw.
Yeah, the final straw. So old-timey ones, okay? And then we went to these. Do I actually have one with the ribbon stuff? Oh, I do. Okay. Somebody who evidently worked in the laptop corner of the world decided that the little flat ribbon cable with the little black gate that you have to pick up and down to slide this under to flip the black gate up and down would be great. And it is great on one side. The problem is you have to turn this around 180 degrees and put this into the camera beam, and while you put this in, to flip the little black gate down. And as you can see, it has some retention to it. And it's 135 degrees, and you're standing over it looking down while sweat's dripping off of your nose onto really sensitive electronic pieces of equipment. What could possibly go wrong? This was very short-lived. Thank the Lord it was very short-lived because this was sick. They could have done better. They finally came out with this board here. And the great thing about this is this needs a little blue pill. But because of that, it's really nice and easy to plug it in, right? You can just plug it in and you can move it all over the place, and it's nice and malleable. And then the good thing with this is it's not pushing directly on the camera control board. So we have a really good connection. It's super easy. Not only did we do that, but for the 5 days he's in the field, we keyed these differently from each other, so you can't plug them in wrong, right? You can't, well, Florida, man. So we tried to make it so that you had a really hard time putting this in backwards, all right? And then this is still how we make them today. So this is actual current production still. It's really nice. It's super easy. The other thing that we did is Oh, I know. The other thing we did is on original camera control boards, if this board went bad, this was it. On newer camera control boards, there's 2 sets of jumper pins. And evidently we got so good that we have 2 chips. We have a primary chip and a backup chip. So if this camera control board goes bad and you don't have one on the truck, or you need to like pad the end because you need to get the $4.5 grand somehow, and you want to sell them a new one but you don't have one, you can put the 2 jumpers on here, and what it does is it tells it to stop using the bad chip and to start using the good one. So this is like you get 2 camera control boards in one. Now if it goes bad a second time, right, at least, and some diags, so you'll be fine. So so at least 6 months, at least 6 months, 6 months in a day. They're gone. Okay.
Activate the jumper just to try to see if that camera starts emitting again.
Hmm?
I'm just gonna send all my inventory to
So, yeah, so you get 2 camera control boards in one. And then when you get the new one, obviously, now my big question to you guys, we haven't gotten to anywhere. Where are you going to get the jumpers from? Do you think we give you the jumpers?
Obviously.
What, are you kidding me? We'd go out of business if we gave you free jumpers. We can't afford free jumpers. We're like, almost $1 billion company. We can't afford to give away free jumpers. So where do you get the free jumpers from? Because so you guys haven't gotten the lift racks yet. Evidently, he's installed the lift rack or 2, but in the console of the rift rack Reggie, you have S3 to S13, and some of the jumpers are what we call flagged, where they're just over one pin but not the other. So they're technically not doing anything, but some of the jumpers are jumpered. But usually 5 or 6 of the jumpers are flagged. Okay. The reason we do that is because we need one control board to do about 12 different racks. So the different jumpers are in different configurations for whatever rack you're using. But you can usually always find at least 2 jumpers on any rack that you take the cover off of. So that way you don't have to have jumpers on your truck. You can steal their jumpers and then charge them for it. Yeah, because we needed one for the Revolution. Right. Yeah. It's just, yeah. However long the first one lasted, second one should last about the same time.
That level of redundancy is something that isn't flying above me is pretty wild.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah. Better come back with 2 of them. Again, connection for your emitter board. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna pass this around. The 3 lights on the back. The 3 lights is just like a status thing. One of them should be solid, 2 of them should be blinky, but all 3 of them should be doing something. You really can't. The problem is you really can't see these because they're facing the back. On the emitter board, there's also some lights that you can see. Okay. 4 screws. They're just regular Phillips screws. Again, a USB connection. So that's what we're currently using. Okay. Oh, this is what it actually looks like. This is your CCD board inside your camera. And as you can see, this just sits over it, but it gives it a nice, you can get in there. Even if you have sausage fingers, you can get in there and it's easy to replace. Okay. Everyone always wants to know what a camera, because you'll never see this unless you take this CCD board off. When you do that, you avoid the warranty in the camera. So everyone always wants to know what an empty camera block looks like. So I have an empty camera block. If you want to know what the CCD board looks like, if you've never owned a fancy camera and you've never seen a CCD board. So I remember I had a very early Canon. It actually had a TF card, right? One of the big cards. It was like 4 megabytes. It could take like 60 pictures, and it was only like a 2 megabyte camera, right? And, it was a professional, right? Like 28 years ago. Yeah. Good times. Really? What do they use now?
That's where all your calibration is.
Yeah.
Usually it's whatever software you load your images on your computer with. That's what interprets all.
Oh, really? So now it's just taking the it's just turning it into bits.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's in raw format.
Yeah, you can shoot JPEGs too. It'll
Huh?
do the processing for you, but usually you load it into Lightroom.
Okay.
And then do whatever.
Okay. Is that how they got to like 60 megabyte cameras now? It's just taking mega. Yeah.
Well, your lights and sensor tech got a lot better.
Okay.
That's where those numbers come from. The 10, the 1280 or whatever.
Yeah, up and down. Yeah. Yeah. That's where you get a megapixel from.
244 by whatever is 4K and 8K.
Yeah.
Well, those are lines. Yeah, those are fancy.
It's close, similar, but different. So you either have a pixel, which is an individual dot, or you have rows, and then so many dots make up a row or a column, because you have rows and columns.
They do, but here's the deal: those pixels are extremely small. So all the pixel is a light sensitive scroll.
Right.
And so when you have a sensor that's teeny tiny, and they're like, "Oh, it's 48 megapixels," when you zoom into that, it does not look like a professional.
It's still going to be grainy.
Yeah. It's not as sharp. It's not detailed.
So, but anyway.
Put a picture of the moon on there itself.
Believe it or not, this is a CCD board. This is off of 1 megapixel, but the CCD board's like freaking ginormous, right? Just because. I don't have the one without it. The one without it's coming around. So I probably need to show this because Neil and his dad are in here and they're gonna see this in the field. You guys won't, but we'll talk about it just for a second. We don't sell them anymore, but a while ago. So another thing we did for the international market is we came up with a little bit cheaper grade of a camera. Instead of HX421s, these were HS200s. They were still very accurate for the job they were doing, but they're not Hawkeye Elite compatible. Okay, so one of the things we did is one of the boards has all of the electronics on it, and the other one's just like a dud, because it's easier to make a dud and then a really complicated one for some reason. So if you have HS220s or 200s, this is what your camera boards are going to look like. You guys won't see this domestically. This is just international. But it was a way to make a cheaper camera, right? So I hadn't seen one of these. No. You put both of them on. No. Yes, from the factory, they're both empty. When you want to engage the secondary chipset, you have to put 2 jumpers on. I don't know why it's 2 jumpers and not 1, but it's 2 jumpers and not 1. I don't know. I could go find somebody, I'm sure. I don't have any time because I'm running late.
In most cases, you recommend if there were faults with the camera that couldn't be solved by engaging a second chip, you would just recommend a new camera, right?
Well, I don't know. At that point, I'd probably try to put on a new camera control board. So let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. Don't give him a personal challenge. I'm sorry? So like, you could live in a high humidity area where it rusts, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, New York City has some humidity, but I wouldn't call it like if you're in Louisiana, if you're in Florida, Texas, Georgia, right? Um, if if your alignment bay is right next to the swamp cooler, if your alignment bay is right next to the wash bay, right, and they're constantly aerating the air, you're going to get a lot of surface rust on it. So the problem might be that the actual back of the board is bad. It's a good place to start, but if I took my camera covers off and I saw that board there with all the surface rust on it, it's getting tossed. Well, you're only gonna be here for you. No, you can just replace the camera control board. It usually doesn't get inside. Because literally, honestly, you'll look at them and they won't have the surface rust on them. You'll look at it and they'll be fine.
It's just not that deep. If they have surface rust, then I wouldn't replace them.
Yeah.
If they don't have rust, then they wouldn't mind.
It's just.
Also, we're dealing with thousands of dollars in the and I'm sure it's not just like, oh, while you're in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Change another
one out for me. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you can never be too cautious.
Show the service manager. I noticed this one when you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you get that level of
Let's open the other stuff.
You ain't gonna have time. You won't have time to rip people off. You're gonna be too busy.
Hey, 45 days. Isn't it? You'll see.
Oh, I'll see. I'll see it from here. Elon Musk isn't gonna be the only thing launching things into the atmosphere. Is that Elon? No, that was Brandon. QuickBooks is trying to catch up to his invoice. Yep, there it was. He caught it. Okay.
As long as they pay, it doesn't matter.
As long as they pay.
Yeah, you said this board here is held in what sort of screws?
Yes.
Calibrated?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
F around to find out.
Actually, yeah, those are true.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad your eyes are that good. My eyes aren't that good anymore. My eyes used to be better in the late 1900s. Forces you to focus. Not only that, it cures tinnitus. You just shove the red light in your ear and it'll cure tinnitus.
The blue light's bad, the red light's good.
Okay, how many more of these do I have? I just have these. I have these. I have these. Okay.
I can almost touch my hands together.
Yeah, but can you do it this way?
Oh, I can touch. Hey, I can actually
Mhm.
scratch side of my back. But not in this shirt. Hey, I put an undershirt on this morning. I went for my shirt. I'm like, that's not bad. Just get the sleeves off. I come in today with the cut off sleeves. I'm like, here's the ticket home.
His whole his whole life.
Mike, you should have listened. I've contacted the Syntax lady 103 times already.
His whole life he's been trying to wear a medium. he's finally gotten to the place where he can wear a medium, and now he's embarrassed by
Because I
it,
knew
right?
he was going to eat a big lunch today.
Embrace the mediumness, all right?
Mm.
Mm.
Don't worry about it. I took care of it. Terrible problem. Old Larry the Cable Guy.
Get a seeing rip the scene.
I was gonna go brave. She had to do that to shoot the arrow, right? Her flowing locks of hair. Mm. It's good when you have kids. They force you to watch good movies. All right. Okay.
Fast and Furious 6 where he flexes the cast off. It'll work.
That's not gonna work. Camera control boards. Camera control boards. Again, they control when the camera aims, or not aims. They control when the camera fires and when the emitters flash. Because they have to time each other. So all right. The emitter board is the emitter board. The emitter board has emitters. You guys are so no wonder you guys are so advanced. I love you guys. For some reason, when we first came out with emitters, we needed to put something on it so that the light wouldn't shoot sideways; it would just shoot straight. I don't know. We didn't have straight emitters. We had curvy emitters. I don't know. But we tried to put the little guard on here so that we would shoot the light in a straightforward manner. Okay. This is what this looks like without the guard on it. If this was turned on, I'd kill you. I'd just cut you right in half. So if you notice, they're little and there's a lot of them. I don't even want to count. There's probably over 30 of them in here. Okay. Somehow we graduated and we cut that number down in half. And now we just have 2 sets on each side. If you notice, it's still a square hole. And now we have fewer emitters, but we're doing a better job with emitter management. A 5-volt transistor here, so I need this giant heat sink around it. So this 5-volt transistor doesn't like vaporize a leg and then it goes not working. Okay. They say these were out in the field. I have never seen this out in the wild. You won't see this either because this got discontinued before I came inside. These emitters look like they were trying to signal like the Goodyear blimp or something. These things are the cool thing about this is this one emitter right here is actually bad. You can see there's a burn spot in it. It's somehow oddly satisfying that you can actually see a bad emitter. Just ginormous emitters. Okay. Then all of a sudden, somebody got crafty with the green board, and now they're pentastar boards, right? So now it's not square anymore. Now it's in a pentagon. I wonder if it's stealing my data as I hold it, right? Anyway, if you notice now, I just have 5 emitters on each side, so I'm getting less and less on my emitters. Okay. After this one, somehow I went to 10 big emitters. Because again, I have really good emitter management. So now I have 10 big emitters. The latest and greatest one, the one that's currently being produced today, is somehow we've gotten that count down. Believe it or not, there are 5 big emitters. There are actually 5 small emitters. So there are 10 emitters on it, but the small ones, when you go into merchandising mode and the thing just sort of does this lazy circle, that's actually the small emitters. Now the small emitters do flash with the big ones, but obviously they don't do a whole lot. But now all we need somehow, magically, mystically, we just need 1 emitter per side. I guess because the pentagon, I don't know, between that and that. So this is what we're currently using. Okay. Probably. They probably need really big ones.
Why the second place?
So they kept it one.
No points for second place.
They really use it. Horseshoes and handmaids.
That's all they have to
Look
do.
at the size of our emitters.
No, I believe you. When you take an emitter board off, there is a seal. It is a rubber seal. This rubber seal is an insulator because we can't have the sensitive electronics touching an aluminum block. right? That would be bad. So basically this is just a rubber seal. The holes in the rubber seal, we don't use them. Evidently someone else uses them and buys the same rubber seal because we don't make this. It literally just sits here and just creates it's just an isolator. Okay? All right.
Is that shipped with the emitter board?
It is not.
Of course, it's
So,
$2 billion company.
Yeah.
can't give away free rubber seals. Anyway, make sure when you take this off the camera, if you see this, you're in trouble because this is still stuck to your old emitter board. So make sure when you put your new emitter board on, before you put your new emitter board on, you better have one of those in front of it, right? These are just held in with Phillips head screws number 0 or number 1, depending on your Phillips, right? So we want to have safe picture takeage. So make sure your rubber's in place because we want to have safe picturage. All right, we don't want to catch any funny diseases while we're taking pictures. So protect yourself. All right, there you go. All right. The other good thing for you guys, because you guys I haven't passed around a camera yet, is as long as you power down the unit, you can just replace the camera control board without, because these are the 3 important screws, right? These 3 screws here set the angle of the camera. If you loosen any 3 of these screws up, you're gonna have to recalibrate the camera. You can replace a camera control board without touching these 3. The other thing we did is we gave you 3 access holes to get to the 3 screws that hold the emitter board on, which means as long as you power the unit down and you have a very good magnetic tip screwdriver, you can take out the 3 very, very teeny tiny screws. The other cool thing is these 2 screws they have elongated holes. So you don't have to take these 2 screws out. You only have to take this 1 screw out. So hopefully you'll only lose 1 screw instead of all 3. Then you can slide it back in, put this screw in, tighten these screws down. So, but you can see, easier to send this one out. So you can see we gave you the access holes so you can get to the emitter boards. Okay. On an older unit, one of the cameras, the photo lens is sticking above the emitter board, so you got to be a little careful how you get it out. But you can snake the emitter board out above the focal range of the camera. The other camera is convex, concave, right? So one's convex, one's concave. On a newer camera, somehow they're both concave. So you can just slide the emitter board in and out without actually having any trouble, okay?
One deeper than the other, though, right? Still, new stuff? Or no?
That's what she tells me. I don't know if I hit the bottom or not.
It's all relative.
That's the difference between the water being cold and the water being deep, right? You know the joke? Yeah, it's a good joke, all right? So, yeah. So, on these I can't tell. I've never been good at camera depth. I'd make a terrible proctologist. But what I do is I just know the camera numbers, right? So the cameras are a 125 dash, and whatever that dash is, like right now we're using 469s and 470s. So 125 469 is a driver's side, and 125-470 is a passenger side. It's for car people, it's easier to remember numbers. Yeah. Which is good because driver's side is usually odd even in the, right? Or is it that backwards?
GM doesn't really have any kind of uniformity to that anymore.
Yeah. Well, the OEMs suck nowadays. Everything used to be that way. So anyway. Yeah. So this is a HXL rear emitter. It only so it's weird because it only has the 4 emitters on it. When you order this board, you're actually going to get this whole entire thing. You're going to get the board, you're going to get the plastic housing, and you're going to get the 4 focusers. So this one here, you can see what the emitters look like, and this is what you're going to get when you order one in, okay? So, believe it or not, those things are actually just plastic. I'm sure someone in here was thinking they were some type of crystal, but they're actually just plastic. It's almost like a inverse pyramid, where the point of the pyramid is. Yeah. So. Good.
Tiny 0 or 1 books. It's also extendable.
Oh, it's extendable.
Yeah, so when you extend it, it makes it so the grip's fuzzy. It has the little in the back of the screwdriver. It has the piece that spins, so you can keep it in your palm when you spin. Then you can also extend that piece out further.
That story would have been better if it came from Colin. I'd have expected that from Colin. Just saying. I don't know. He did it to himself.
Yeah, he was over here saying how aroused he was, and Jim didn't hear the context behind it, and he was like, Milwaukee stuff. Getting around for Milwaukee.
Yeah. So my movie references stopped when my kids hit about, I don't know, 15 or 16. We stopped watching Disney movies. So if it's more than 10 years ago, I'm good. If it's like the last 5 years, my TikTok is not. My tick doesn't talk. Yeah, they're terrible.
These are from this class, right? I'm not from these badges.
I don't know who gave Mateus a temp badge.
These were just on my desk, right?
Yeah, they were all just on the.
Fine, then they're from this class.
Okay, that's fine. Any of you guys have badges?
No, ours stopped working, so we turned them in.
We would love that.
Yeah, can we get one?
If we end up driving,
He's working on it.
do we need a parking pass?
What?
Do we need a parking pass when we drive a day or two?
No. The only time I got in trouble is I left my car here parked for 2 weeks, and Mr. Brower thought it was a. Thankfully, the gentleman who runs the plant knew what kind of car I drove, and he told him not to tow it. So it was one of those things where, oh, I know what it was. We left for Christmas, so it was like December 18th. We flew down for Christmas. So we flew down for Christmas. So we parked here, flew down for Christmas. So Christmas is 2 weeks, right? And then that was the 1 year we went to the CES show, and the CES show is like the 3rd or the 4th of January. So I left Atlanta, I flew out to Vegas for the CES show, but then it prolonged me coming back. I wasn't here until like the 7th or the 8th of January. Car had been out in the parking lot for like 3 weeks.
Where's the NAD?
Was I supposed to do that?
It can happen. Just put it back in. This year it was in Vegas. Next year it's going to be in Orlando. Last year it was in New Orleans when it snowed for the first time in 125 years. And that was kind of fun. The year before it was in Vegas. The year before that, it was in Texas where it snowed and no one knew what to do. The year before that, it was in Vegas. Yeah, I don't know where it was the year before that because I didn't go to that one. So, NADA show is a little interesting. It moves every other year. I cannot wait for Orlando. I'm going to Disney World to ride the Tron ride because I have not ridden it yet, and I am deprived. I am. Have you seen the third movie? I have not brought myself yet to see the third movie. I'll watch it on Netflix. You guys are going to get calls that the alignment machine stopped working. That can range a lot of things. The alignment machine stopped working to the program they think is frozen. The program won't boot to the other thing. So if the alignment machine stopped working is usually because we are very gracious when we give out computers. Our alignment computer has 4 whole gigabytes of RAM in it, and that 4 whole gigabytes has to be shared with the video card. And Windows itself, Windows 10 is using what, 3.5 gigs of that, 4 gigs of memory. So there's a lot left over for. So the way they get around it is they say, well, we're only running one program right now. The throughput of that program is monstrous, right? Because every time the emitter flashes, it's a little bit of memory. Every time the camera takes a picture, it's a little bit of memory. Now, what happened to all of your aligners after the guy got done doing the alignment? No. What happened? Did anyone actually reset the aligner? Or did they stay flashing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for infinity? Right? Because they were too lazy to hit the R button, to hit the reset button to make it go into merchandising mode. Right? You guys actually reset your computers? You lie.
No, I was pretty
I thought that was.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was just part of the procedure.
It is.
I thought you were just getting ready for the next one.
No, it is. But most people, they when they get done, it's like that half a second to walk up there to hit the R button. It takes too much time, so they just leave it running and running and running and running. So after about 2 weeks, the computer doesn't know what to do with itself because it doesn't have enough memory to. I'm sorry.
Does it new reboot out the R button?
No.
computer forgets how to compute over time. It's just like
Yeah, it just doesn't have enough brains to know what it's doing. So, the first thing you're gonna do, so the honest to goodness actual conversation that I've had hundreds of times, at least 100 times. The guy calls you up, service manager calls you up, says, "Hey, my computer's doing dumb things." Great. You have to be careful how you tell him this, because if you tell him, "Have you restarted your computer?" he's going to say yes. What's the secret?
restart the align.
Yeah, but what's the secret about restarting the aligner? What's the secret about fixing any piece of hunter equipment 70% of the time? Close.
Let that capacitor shutting it off completely and starting it back up.
Start the wall.
Yeah, by unplugging it, right? So you can't tell someone to restart the computer because they will hit power and restart, but that doesn't unplug it from the wall. So you have to tell them, "I need you to shut your computer down, physically unplug it from the wall," unless it's an Ultimate 8S, then they have to hit the power button on the power bank, right? "I need you to shut your computer down, unplug it from the wall for 5 minutes." How long are they going to give you if you say 5 minutes? 30 seconds. 30 seconds is about what you need. So you tell them 5 minutes in hopes they give you 30 seconds. In that 30 seconds, you drain all of the capacitors and all of the diodes, and then all the green boards are drained of electricity, and then when they plug it back in and it boots it back up, it will magically start working correctly again around 70 to 75% of the time. Okay? The guy's going to call you back up way too quickly and tell you it's doing the same thing. That's because what he heard is, "I need you to restart the PC," not, "I need you to shut it down and unplug it from the wall." So the second time he calls you, you're going to get his attention by saying, "That's fine. I'm going to drive out there. If I drive out there and I shut it down and unplug it from the wall and then reboot it and it fixes the problem, I'm going to charge you a trip charge and a half-hour diagnostic." At that point, if it's the technician, he doesn't care. But if you're talking to the service manager, you now firmly have the service manager's attention because money is now involved. Two things are going to happen. He's either A, never going to call you back because it's fixed. So if he doesn't call you back, congratulations, they never call you to tell you it's fixed. Or B, he actually shut it down and unplugged it from the wall, and he will call you back a third time and go, no, I did unplug it from the wall and it still doesn't work. At least at that point, you know you're going to into there is a hard fault, or something is physically wrong that a reboot didn't, or a shutdown, unplug, and reboot didn't fix. But you have to get them to the point where they unplug it from the wall.
So if the machine's been turned off for a significant amount of time,
It has to be unplugged because your USB board stays powered on, and all of the circuits and diodes and capacitors in your USB board didn't. I get it. I get it.
Unload, but I mean,
They have to de-energize, right? Yes, yes. Well, I try to do all three, so I'll take a wrench or something, put it in all, because you have to get the two in the ground. Okay. I had one guy over the phone ask me how I could do that without electrocuting myself. Obviously, he's not an electrician. I told him it would be okay. I also told him not to do it with it half plugged into the wall. He had to plug it all the way out of the wall. Yeah, there you go. So, by the way, if you noticed all of our outlets, the ground terminal is up. Do you know that's a commercial code? Because if it's half unplugged and something falls down, it falls on the ground and not the hot, so that whatever falls onto it's not energized. That's why in commercial buildings they're upside down, but in your house they're upside right. We don't care if it kill your house; it's your house. Right. Hmm? Right. So those the ground's on the top. That's actually a commercial code thing, which to this day I still plug stuff in the wrong way. I'm like, dang it, turn it upside down, plug it in. There are a multitude of error messages. Again, now that I'm being reported, get into a texting relationship with your customers. Okay? Make them become their inner Japanese tourists. Take a picture of the error message. Once they shut it off, that error message might go away, or it might get a different one when you boot it back up. Okay? Take a picture of the screen. Send you a picture. That way you know what you're dealing with. Okay? The two most common errors, thankfully, are worded like trying to fill out a government form. One of them says that the aligner cannot communicate with the authorization key. Authorization keys are used to run the program. The second error message says that the aligner cannot communicate with the USB box. The USB box houses the communication authorization keys, which allow the program use of the program. So there's like two words different between the two error messages. The first error message says that they lost the key, or the key's not being read anymore. The second error message says that the PC cannot communicate with the USB board itself, or the USB box itself. Okay. Normally, if you get the second error message where it says it can't communicate with the USB interface board, it's a power supply. So you're going to have to go out there and replace a power supply in a USB box, because the power supply gives the green board the 5 volts to be able to read the keys. Okay. So again, either way, there's a hardware issue. The third type of thing that you're going to come across is people are going to go, my alignment, I can't calibrate my alignment machine. And then you're immediately going to look like that dog, because you're like, I don't remember selling you a calibration equipment. The problem is you didn't. The problem is they're using the wrong terminology, because you bill them for calibrating the equipment. So they think they're going to use the technical terms on you to make it sound like they know what they're doing, which just backfires on them spectacularly. What they mean is their alignment machine won't compensate the targets, right? They roll the car forward, they roll the car back, and it won't compensate. The bar graphs won't turn from red to green so that they can compensate the sensors so that they can get, the live axle and all that. But they don't understand the difference between the two terms. Compensate, calibrate, it all sounds the same. They're just mishmash, mushing words together. If they can't compensate the vehicle with cameras, believe it or not, and this is going to sound really stupid, but more than likely one of their emitter boards is bad and isn't even flashing, and nobody ever looks up, and no one ever looks at the alignment machine. And you're just going to walk in, you're going to stand all the way at the back of the rack, and you're going to see if you have 4 flashy corners. And I guarantee you're going to have 3 flashy corners and a black nothing. And then you're going to replace the emitter board. People literally just will not look at their system.
You had a board in there that had a demonstrated failure on a single emitter.
Hmm?
Would that be enough to kill all the
No,
emitters?
it was just a
Would that be enough to impact the performance of the board?
no.
But get the newer board that has.
If you have the good thing about the new emitter boards, they either work or they fail completely. There's no in between whatsoever. Right. Yeah. It's still going to work. You'd have to fail like over half of them. But it's weird because service technicians, for some reason, treat your equipment like shop equipment, right? So you get they're not paying me to take care of it. I'm not the shop foreman. Why do I have to care about it? It's like, it's making them money, but they're so lazy or so ignorant that they don't care about it. And it's actually tragic that you can't get people to take 2 seconds to look at the piece of equipment they're using to see if it's working right. But that's just their mindset, right? It's a piece of shop. It's just a piece of shop of equipment. Yes, it makes me lots of money, but it's a piece of shop equipment. They're not paying me to diagnose it. I ain't going to look at it. Whatever. So again, a lot of times just stand back and look at it and watch it and see what it's doing. You'd be surprised how. Now, the other thing is, your salesmen go, "Oh, these are light emitting diodes. Light emitting diodes are good for like 10,000 hours." And everyone hears 10,000 hours and it turns into 10,000 years, right?
Guard that with your life. There's only 2 that work.
A light emitting diode, that's great. Good job. Way to go.
It's like pulling teeth to get more.
A light emitting diode at 10,000 hours is only like 2 years, 2.5 years, right? If you do 24/7. Because again, everyone leaves them on and flashing all the time. So the more they flash, the quicker they're going to burn out, which is, good news for Brandon. You only got a little bit of time. So, just, you'd be surprised how many times the emitter's just not flashing. If the emitter isn't flashing, the silver isn't reflecting, we can't, when we take a picture, it's there, but it's sort of like on a rainy day. It's gray and it's cloudy and it doesn't pop. So it just doesn't work. But yet no one looks. Would you ever see that movie Don't Look Up, where the asteroid's coming, right? With what was her name from the Hunger Games, right? Yeah. Don't Look Up. That's such a dumb movie. That was such a dumb movie. So, nobody looks up. I'm young enough to know that I learned that from the Dukes of Hazzard, right? Nobody looks up. You can do whatever you want on a rooftop. No one looks up, right? All right. Just look at the system, watch the system, and figure out what the system's doing. Okay. I don't know if I want to do that or I want to do this time. What time you got? Let's go into USB boards. Let's go into USB boxes first. So, tell you what, leave this, take that, follow me. I'll be right back. We're going to do USB boxes. We'll finish up with USB boxes and then tomorrow we'll tomorrow morning. Oh, tomorrow. All right, you know what? After we do this, maybe we'll get that TCX 53 loaded up because he's coming at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we'll end the day with a little physical exertion so you guys feel like you did something. All right, USB boxes. This is a first generation USB box. This USB box was around maybe to... This one actually has that. So first generation USB box, because this has a Super Burndy cable in it. This one was 2004 to 2008. Before then, it was all serial data. So we still had a USB box, but it just had the board in it, right? And it didn't have this stuff on the top. Second generation USB box probably went from around 2008 all the way up to 2014. Third generation USB box started in 2014 and is still technically still current. They play around with the shape and the size of this a little bit. Sometimes it's missing this side here and the cover goes over it. You guys noticed that instead of having 4 screws, it had like a little hooky on the bottom and 2 screws on the top, because we're trying to save on it's almost like in cars, you know, how many pieces did you put in the car? So we're trying to eliminate pieces and parts where we can. It's still a third generation USB box. It's still a lot smaller, a lot thinner. This one here only has 2 plugs in it. It has the USB Super Burndy cable, and it just has a regular Burndy cable. Okay. This one here, again, super old. If you notice, this board here is separate from the other board. So this was your keys board. This one here also happened to control the volume. So this little guy here stuck through the front. You can control the volume with this guy. Okay. If you notice, each one of these has a little white guy sticking out of the top. 1.5 billion years ago, an aligner had 2 on-off switches. One on-off switch was here on the USB board box. The other on-off switch was on the side of the cabinet, to where you turn the cabinet off, but you didn't turn the USB board on and off. That's what this plugged into. If you have a newer cabinet that doesn't have the switch on the side, it basically just has a turnaround harness. It's just a little brown wire comes out, goes back in, because we need to tell it, hey, turn on, we need to go to work, but we don't have a switch to do it, okay? So this one here actually needed 2 separate USB cables, one from here and one from here to go to the PC, okay? We got better with our micro technology, so now everything is on one board. Okay? That's good, but it's also bad, because it didn't matter what happened to the board, you were replacing the board, right? And people just didn't like it and they got tired of it. But the Super Burndy cable is now all in one. There is no volume knob anymore. We took the volume knob away. For those of you in the front row in the cheap seats, these 2 things here used regular ATX power supplies, not ATX V2s, just ATX power supplies. An ATX power supply has the fan on the sides, and the back of the power supply is solid. ATX V2 has the big fan on the bottom of it or on the back of it, okay? If you notice, there's no vent hole, so you can't use an ATX V2 because your 120 millimeter fan is going to be blowing directly into nothing, and it's not really going to cool anything down. Trying to find an old ATX power supply where it's a 60 millimeter fan that's pulling the air up and down rather than in and out is it's getting hard to find those. And it's getting hard to find those. Once again, these things went away in 2014. I can't find ATX power supplies. I can't find them at Walmart.com. I can't find them at Micro Center. I can't hardly find them on Amazon. Somehow, however, Hunter Engineering has a women's bathroom full of these, floor to ceiling. I don't know how we still sell ATX power supplies that have the fans this way instead of this way. I guess if you wanted to, if you had a plasma cutter, you could cut a hole in the box. This box here is then put into the middle of the aligner, so you'd have to cut a second hole in the aligner. then you'd have to cut a third hole behind the second hole so that you could get a clear shot of air going through the alignment machine. So just be very careful when you're going to replace the power supply on this, all right? Sometime on Wednesday, we have power supply testers upstairs in classroom 3. So if you've never been nerdy enough to check the power supply on a power supply tester, we will do it together for the first time. Then we'll all sing George Michael or something. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. Yeah. The Gen 3 USB boxes, they use a solid state power supply. To this day, my brother has never replaced a solid state power supply, and he's been out since 2014. There's nothing on them to break. There's nothing on it. It's just somehow it just works forever. Okay. It's just a 12-volt power supply. It's got a couple of capacitors in it. It's got a green board on it.
That's your stomach? What is it? Oh.
People in your head again.
No, it's just weird people looking up, and it's anyway. Yeah. He's probably trying to figure out where we took the picture from. So, this, yeah, once you take this board out, there's a giant ATX power supply back here. You can see the connector right here. It's a 20-pin connector. Then there's this double 4-pin connector where you got 2 yellow, 2 black. This is normally what you feed right into your CPU because the motherboard needs the 20-pin, and then you get the separate 4-pin. Now motherboards use a 24-pin, and you still use a separate 4-pin just to power the power supply.
So we gotta take these apart?
In about 10 minutes, if you want. If you want to feel nostalgic, you can take this one apart. It's the same thing, really. Ooh, it's got one in the front and the back? That's weird. Yeah, I guess. I guess. No, because does that help us sell new stuff?
So it's possible. New egg. Right. Go look on New Egg. Find all sorts of stuff on New Egg that's old.
So
You do it, it's just not possible.
I'm going to tell you another thing. If you go to Newegg or whatever and you find an ATX power supply for like $8.99, okay, power supplies are, they're good or bad depending on their weight. If you get a power supply and it's really light, that means there's not a lot of heat sinks into it and it's going to burn out right away. If you get a good bronze, silver, gold power supply, that thing's got some weight to it. She's a heavy girl, right? You don't want a really light power supply. So the heavier the better. It just has more stuff inside of it. Okay. All right. Third gen went to solid state power supplies. However, if you notice, one thing has stayed true. Two things technically: the Burndy connector stayed the same, and the USB super cable has stayed the same. Okay. They all look the same. Okay. Underneath the little flappy here, where you got the little red, you got the little. Nope. There's no red here. But in here in the middle and here in the middle, there is a fuse. This is a 6-amp slow blow, so it's the fuse with the wire around it because it's a slow blow fuse. There's also a 6-amp fuse underneath here. Okay. If you want to switch it over to 220, you have to somehow come up with a second 6-amp fuse because this is set to 110. However, when we ship it to some places in the rest of the world, like Europe, they don't do 110. They stop at 220 because they're girly men, but they're manly men, and everything's 220, and they don't run anything on 110. So you actually just take this guy out, flip it over, and the little sign right here will change from 125 to 240. Actually, that says 115. So it'll change from 115 to 230 to let you know that you have it either in 220 mode or 110 mode. Okay. There is a fuse in here. The other cool thing, or the last thing I'm going to talk about, is some boards real quick. So I'm going to pass this one around. because this one has the spring taken out of it so that you can see it is literally a USB plug-in, and you can see the three prongs on the back. There's nothing special. There's a lot of specialness to it, but it's not like tricky. It's literally the end that it's the male end of a USB port, right? The big one, the big A, not the square, but the rectangular. It's literally just a USB port with some power wires going to it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I need one more board, and I apologize. I'll be right back in about. Line 10. You got a DSP 600s running Winaline 10. And the computer's fine. It's just everything else around it is trash. So you want to upgrade his USB box to this. Winaline 10 doesn't have the drivers to run this board. Let's just say somehow miraculously you get the drivers to run this board. Then you want to upgrade the cameras to Hawkeye Elite cameras. Hawkeye Elite cameras are not compatible with Winaline 10. So what Jake's cohorts are doing, rather than getting the salesperson involved or the distributor involved, is they're selling the person a new computer, a new USB box, and 2 new cameras, and they're making like like bands or stacks. It's bands nowadays, right? And then bands, right? They're making huge amounts of money because maybe the customer doesn't like the salesperson, or the customer doesn't want to buy new equipment because he can't write the new equipment off, but he can pay the service guy, X amount of dollars without raising flags that he's buying new equipment. Maybe maybe it's a publicly held group and he can't buy capital equipment without getting approval from the board of directors, but he can spend stupid amounts of money repairing the old equipment. So that might be a way that they're helping the customer. So you're going to get into a domino effect where you're trying to help the customer out by just changing this out and going to this. But again, before you're done with it, you're going to end up replacing this, the computer, the board up top, the cameras, and basically all he's going to be left with is the sheet metal at that point. He's going to have a new alignment machine in a very old body. Just like when your wife goes in for one of those tummy tucks or whatever, right? Or a facelift. No. So no. But I mean, honestly, so here's your counter argument. You ask the guy, how old is his laptop at home? Right? He either A, doesn't have a laptop because he just uses an iPad, or if he has a laptop, it's less than 2 years old. And you go, well, the computer in there is 20 years old, right? But again, they don't view an alignment machine as a computer. They view an alignment machine as a piece of shop equipment. They'll view the pieces of equipment, right? It's just not a piece of shop equipment. It's an actual computer in that piece of shop equipment. Yeah. Okay. USB, the USB connector. Okay. The USB connector. At some point in your lifetime, every single USB connector will have the same malfunction. It's had the same malfunction since 2004. However, over the course of the life of the unit, it doesn't add up that much, so they don't redesign it, okay? So what I want you guys to notice, we're going to pass this one around. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get right up close to the camera, okay? Am I in frame?
The camera's down. Right here.
Oh yeah.
Okay, if you notice, I have 3 nice pins. They're very shiny. They look almost like polished aluminum or stainless steel. Okay, after a while, one of those pins isn't going to be as shiny. It's going to look more like nickel or pewter. And if you notice, that pin is discolored. Okay, what's the pin discolored from? Heat.
Rubbing and
Okay, because it gets too hot. Okay, the way the cord plugs in is, you have a male and you have a female, and it's just on terminal tension. So the cord and the connector here, they wear together evenly, right? So what happens to the cable? It also gets discolored. Now the good news for you guys is the cable's only about $100.
Yeah.
So throwing a
$89.
throwing a cable on here isn't the end of the world, because it's not all that bad. Okay, so when you have this color here, everything is working really nice and everything is flashing really nicely. By the time you get to this one here, one of your 4 cameras is going to drop out by the end of the day, because what happens to voltage as resistance increases? Voltage decreases. So I only have a set amount of voltages, but I have 4 cameras to feed, which means 3 of the cameras get voltage and 1 of the cameras doesn't. So, and it's going to be random. Today it'll be the driver rear camera. Tomorrow it'll be the driver front camera. The next day it'll be the passenger front camera, because it's all USB based. So it depends on which 3 cameras get in line first and which camera's out to dry. Okay. Now, if so, what happens here? What happens here is the customer is smart. He knows that if he unplugs the cable and plugs the cable back in, he makes a new connection. And then what happens to the 4th camera? Starts working for a day or 2, right? Until the connection gets old again. So how long do you think he goes by unplugging and plugging and unplugging and plugging in?
2 months, 3 months.
We did that.
A really long time, because you keep doing that, right? So
Is it only normally one pin?
it is always the same pin. So what these guys had is, these guys had a pin that looked like that, right? And when you have a pin like this, you have gone way too long in replacing it. Okay, so
Yeah, I never looked in there.
never. Yeah, you just unplugged it, plugged it in. This one actually has gotten so hot that it has actually melted the plastic around it. Okay, this one here actually came out of an aligner in Power Bay, because the Power Bay just blinks all the time when we're doing a red carpet, right? So it's just blinking. And then one day, all of a sudden, 2 of the cameras stop blinking, and we're having a red carpet. And there are people in blue shirts that are not that blue shirt, but other people in blue shirts that are losing their minds, right? So then we just, we order in a board. So this, obviously, this is a real thing. Now, this is sort of like one of those, if you want to call it a ticking time bomb. The more the cameras are left on blinking all day, the faster this occurs. If the customer actually hits the reset button so that they're just in merchandising mode, the further out this will happen between boards. This probably takes about a good 5 years to happen at a normal store. It'll take somewhere between 4 and 5 years for this to happen. You replace the board, obviously. You replace the cable, because the cable doesn't look any better than what the board does, right? And then you're going to fix your camera problem. People are going to call you up with all sorts of weird camera problems. This one's not blinking. That one's not blinking. Right. But it was in here.
It was the whole box. It
Oh.
was the whole box. The cable itself was, both ends were crushed like they'd been run over by a car miraculously. And because that went bad, it fried the board up in the tower. So we replaced all 3.
You see Mike over there? Now you're just billing like Mike, right? I'm not gonna say I don't believe you, but I'm gonna tell you you're billing like Mike.
First we tried replacing just the camera board, and that didn't do it. Then
Yes.
we put the cable on, and that turned the cameras on, but it was still jacked up. but it was only one of the cameras. So then he goes, "Oh, the box is bad," so we replaced the box and put the old camera board back in.
He had a whole. This, did you replace it with one of these or one of these? He had one. Okay.
So then,
So at some point he's taken in used equipment.
yeah. So then,
Because you can't buy this box.
the other one, we put the original camera
Yeah, board back in.
and still no
I
good.
didn't
So
like
then he
it.
happened to have one of those in his truck, threw that in, and sure enough, it was all three. But when that went bad, it fried everything.
Let's hope for you yet, Mike. Let's hope for you yet. You should move to California.
We tried.
I know that. So yeah, again, this box here. They stopped making this board in like 2014, right? So you're on 11-year-old box at the best. You're on an 11-year-old box.
Yeah.
On worse, you're on a 20-year-old box because it looked like this and not like this, but they look the same to the untrained eye, right? So, but yeah.
I think it was only running the line
12. Then it was this box here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I go, where the hell did you get a whole box? He goes,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
you'd be surprised."
You'd be surprised.
He's
Yeah.
like, grab stuff and you know.
So,
But the customer was happy because he sold it for nothing. He got
Oh,
his stuff
yeah.
for it. He didn't like bone him on it.
see, Mike, you got stealth stuff for nothing. I don't know. It's not gonna work.
He still made
It's not
$2,000 on
gonna.
that
It's not
call,
gonna
though.
work.
I mean, he sold the box for $500 used. He told me it's just no warranty.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's like, there's no
That's
warranty on this.
interesting.
Yeah, but it was $500 for a used box.
Yeah, there's a new thing we have, Jim, on our quick books we've added on the break. It's called the legacy charge. There's a legacy line.
So, yes. Steve mentioned a board up top. This is the actual board that sits up top. Okay. If you don't have a board that's either a revision M or a revision N, don't even bother using it. You want at least an M or an N on the little white sticker here. N's are probably what we're currently using. Okay. Again, so this end here is where the USB burned-in cable starts. This is where the USB burned-in cable stops, right? So think of this as like the router, and think of this as, or the modem, and think of this like the router, right? Power's coming in, so we have to take the power out of here and put it into all these connectors. So we have the USB connector. We have four USB connectors because we have 4 cameras. You guys are so smart. Now I know why you're here. Yes. Well, yes and no. So yeah, it's very similar, because how many ports do I need on an Ultimate ADAS? I need 5.
The updated board has that little other white plug on the top.
Yes, right. Because it technically has either 5 or 7 of these plugins. There's a different board that we used to use in legacy drive-throughs. So why make a board we don't have to make if we already made a board? So now we just have 3 empty ports, and we'll have an empty white thing sticking up top. Because this is taking out the 12 volts and the 5 volts. You got your USBs here, so that everything that goes through that cable is now split back out, right? You guys were running the cables to the cameras through the one and only correct spot where you run the cables out to the cameras. They all plug into here, and then it plugs into here, and it makes it all nice and easy, right? It's nice and crisp and clean, and it's one cable with a revision Q on it, right? So anyway, so this is the cable that Steve's talking about, that he was talking about up high, right? This is the one that sits in, even in an Ultimate ADAS, it just has a few more parts on it. And this is a 12, this is a 1023. The other one's like a 1205 or something like that, just because it has more ports in it. Okay? Maybe. It's been a while since I used parts. This one here is interesting. If you have a tower if you have an ML tower, an FC tower, whatever tower, we can't have one super burndy cable go from the computer all the way to the camera. So we have one cable that goes from the aligner to the tower. Then we have a second USB burndy cable that goes from the bottom of the tower to the top of the tower. because we have two cables, we need a it's almost like an upscaler, right? The signal comes in, it's like a booster, right? They're an amplifier, so the signal comes in, it gets boosted and amplified, and then the cable comes out. So this is sitting all the way at the bottom of anytime you have a tower, this is sitting at the bottom. Because again, I need the signal starting to die, I boost it up, I send it up to the top, I unscramble the signals, it goes out to my cameras.
The system we actually fixed. It was a format. So you know exactly.
So I learned the hard way that if you plug this in this way, it no worky because there's a diode in here and it doesn't let the signal go through. It has to go this way and out this way. Because if you try to put it in this way and out that way, you don't get nothing. So yeah, you got to be careful with that. About 10 minutes. I'm going, dang it, man, it worked before. So I actually had one where I had two of these. And it was like one of those really weird one-off installs where it was a drive under quick check, and the guy didn't want to pay for the correct stuff. So we had a super cable come out of here, went into one of these.